Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast, episode 167. We got the commissioner. He is the third co-host of this episode. Matt won't be with us tonight, alongside Jeff as well. Sorry for the delay. Busy business. Got to got things organized. How you doing, Commissioner?
Good. I'll try my best to fill Matt's shoes.
Well,
I'll give it a go. Go Hawkeyes.
Yeah, right. You're a Nebraska alum. What's going on?
I am a Nebraska alum, and I don't get worked up about too many of the games, but that football game this year was.
By the way, thank you for the defensive coordinator and the defensive line coach. They are now going to my alma mater, Florida State.
We appreciate it.
That's how sad Nebraska is. That's I guess a step up to go to the team that won. How many games they win last year?
This season or last season, 13 wins.
Yeah, and then they protested not going to the championship game by not playing this year. That was pretty impressive
right now.
So, but no, I mean, I'll tell you what, it's supposed to be icy and stuff here tonight, so that's a no-brainer. Somebody down in Florida calls me, I'm on the next plane. Same money, less money, whatever.
Beaches, no snow.
It's not a hard recruiting proposition.
At least you don't have to. You might deal with mosquitoes up there, but not as bad as down here, though.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to shovel mosquitoes.
Right. Exactly.
Commissioner, we've been away for a couple of weeks. A lot of things have happened within the National Arena League over the last couple of weeks. You might have heard a few things, seeing that. I don't know. What does a commissioner usually do? But I know there's a lot of updates you want to give the fans about the league and what the next step is.
Absolutely. I mean, we've obviously had some stuff going on. And as I told you, I actually was sick last week. And the big one, we have a weekly conference call. It's the first one since I've taken this position I was not on. And I had arranged to have it covered and everything. And so I fell asleep for it was like a Rip Van Winkle thing. I fell asleep for a few hours. I woke up and all of a sudden all this stuff broke. But we did have a member that stepped out for the season coming up here with Harrisburg. And, we talked about that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But obviously, we got a schedule. We're working on schedule changes and whatnot. We're just trying to be deliberate with it, and, make sure everything's in place with it. So we should have that out the next week or two. But I do want to take a second, just talk about Harrisburg. Justin, they just joined the league this year, but I got a chance to work with him quite a bit and talk with them. And, I don't think it'd be a secret to anybody that knows him. Guy's a pain in the ass, which, is a good thing. Because he's passionate about the business. So, some of my favorite people are pains in the ass because they're that passionate about the business when it comes to coaches and owners. And he's very passionate. I was looking forward to working with him, but I do know, I know he's talked about it a little bit. And if you get a chance, by the way, I don't even remember where I saw it, but he's very descriptive of what the process was for him to make that decision. And I thought he gave a very lot of details on, a lot of things you don't hear about or think about that these owners have to do to just field the team to begin with, to continue fielding the team and either be successful or not successful. And, he's got some things going on too. He could talk about that or whatnot, but, it becomes a business decision. And I respect that because we've always said that these are small businesses, they're not large businesses. They're small businesses with real people and real families and whatnot behind them. And I think in the press release, I mentioned that I was kind of surprised. And then, of course, somebody on Facebook, told me I was stupid because apparently they had more insight into the situation than I did. But, I'll tell you why we were surprised. And that was because we have things that are requirements for the teams to participate. The due diligence they have to do, whether it's arena, whether it's lines of credit, all this stuff. And Justin and Harrisburg had done all that. And in that process, too, that actually cost him money to do. So that's where, it's a little surprising. They obviously intended until very recently to compete in 2025. I've had teams before where they're just not capable. They're not making deadlines. They're not making, league dues and whatnot. And then they're like, oh, we're not playing. That does not surprise me, if that makes sense. They were doing everything in the process. So we were a little surprised at that point. And kind of talk about, for business, I mean, I don't know, ever heard of like Burger King, Burger King's a pretty good franchise overall. I mean, I don't eat there. I don't really care for them, but I've heard of them, and they got a lot of locations. But sometimes a location has to close. It doesn't work for whatever reason, right? Does Burger King suck? I mean, maybe their food, we could debate that. But the business obviously has had some success, right? Sometimes the franchises individual don't work, or they make decisions. So that's kind of what it is. And is there better times that it can be made? Maybe. You always see that with restaurants or movie theaters. So when they close, right, they announce right before. They don't announce 2 or 3 weeks before, because why is that? Well, once you make that announcement, you can't really operate or try to make it still work or whatever. So, it's not an easy thing to do, to close up any business. There's no easy way to do it. There's no handbook to do it, and I think they did what was in their best interest. And he's been very professional about it. It's, what he's doing with his refunding all the tickets and sponsors. I haven't heard anything with that. So that's kind of where we stand on Harrisburg. I wish him luck. He's still going to be a communications guy, marketing and memorabilia company and whatnot that I know is doing business with a bunch of our teams too. So I still think he'll be a part of this. We'll see him around. If he ever gets his itch again to, put the team in, we'll have a discussion if that day comes.
Well, so again, nothing really happened. But how are you doing? You doing well since last week? Since the last time we talked?
I other than having kind of a pneumonia for about a week, no, everything's going pretty good. We got a lot going on. It's the holidays coming up, and then we're in the new year. And once we hit January, we're kind of in the stretch. So we really want to get some things done. Obviously, I don't have the schedule out right now. That I do lose a little bit of sleep over that. We've got some urgency on our end, trust me, getting all that into place. But again, we also continue to do I think we've talked about this. You guys are probably the only ones who watched all of our conversations, but it's an ongoing process of due diligence. We always got to make sure everything's in line, and it's not a synchronous business. There's going to be bumps in the road. So, we want to find those in advance. Was it last year we had a team that we, got rid of before the season, right before the season? They never had an arena. So we don't have that kind of issue anymore. So I'm glad about that. But, you're always doing that due diligence. If I'll just throw out, Omaha showed up tomorrow and it turned out they didn't have workman's comp. They're going to be out of the schedule. That's just what we got to do. We look at all the teams and we make sure that everybody's got all those check boxes. So hopefully when we do get going, it's a smooth ride. We can focus on football and have a good experience for the fans and the players.
Well, you mentioned that the schedule should be out within the next 2 weeks. Is it a lot of rearranging in the schedule, or is it similar home dates for a lot of the organizations?
We try to maintain, obviously, just for the best, it's easiest. But what you'll end up with is, and this is what we talked about before, once we locked in a schedule, they may have had before a weekend free. Well, we take one of the dates. Now they might start scheduling stuff around that. So we may lose a window here. And then, it sounds easy. Oh, you just got rid of one team or so you just move those dates. Well, no, it's kind of a domino effect. Some teams have less dates available than others. Some of that's changing. So it's a dynamic situation of that scheduling as we go. And we also don't want to have some, weird scheduling where you play the same team, 3 times in a row or just over and over or stuff that just looks amateur or we had one scenario actually already play out where we would have had a team playing just based on the dates that were left, a team that would have played on, try to think, it was like they'd be playing on Monday night and then on Friday or something, something dumb like that. Obviously, we're not going to allow that to happen for safety and stuff. So you kind of have to do some schedule arrangement, get with some of these arenas and, make it work. And it'll work. We're already doing it one too many times, obviously. We want this to be the last time when we do it.
Are we still looking at a 10-game season?
Yeah, it'll still be 10 games. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point we are leaning towards the 14 playoff. with the 10. They'll still vote on that. That hasn't been activated yet, but it just seems more logical, though, with that. Will we divide it up into a division, top 2 on each side for, an East and a West, or if it'll just be top 4, that's probably still the bigger debate that I'll let our owners and competition committee debate and come up with recommendations to the group and go from there on that.
So we had some other things happen, other leagues obviously this week, talking about TV deals and things. Are we still sticking with the YouTube channel? Is that still going to be the thing here in the NAL? It seems like it's a pretty strong deal because we do get a lot of viewership. YouTube's very easy to access and very easy, to grab and go and watch wherever you're at.
It's I've got some broadcast background over the years on this, and so to answer your question, yes, right now YouTube will be our base. It's, and think about this compared to 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, just with the bandwidth everybody has now and how much everybody streams, YouTube's a known commodity. I can probably get to, almost anybody and say, hey, we're on YouTube, and they're going to be able to figure out how to get on it and watch the game. They're not going to have to chase it down. They're not going to have to try to download something. They're not going to have to try to figure out where it's at. I mean, even, I got this game on over here, the NFL game tonight. I had to go to Amazon Prime, go find that, know it's on there, and find it. Now, people are going to do that for the NFL, and there's more money involved in that broadcast, believe it or not. But, YouTube's a very reliable platform now, and that's the biggest thing, really. The TV thing, we've kind of discussed it before. TV, especially now because everybody streams almost everything. 10 years ago, different discussion, or even 5 years ago. TV is important to me when I can make revenue on it. And the reality of it, just because of the cost of television, we're not even close. I'll just, I'll burst the bubble for anybody that in this business that thinks so, that like we're close to some lucrative TV contract. We just don't have that viewership or that market right now. And, we're not close to doing that. So, love to have that problem someday. I guess I could just throw it out there. Hey, we're going to try to be on TV and get everybody excited about it. But I'd just be lying if that was the case. So what we think is more important, though, is to have a good, consistent user experience. And we're actually working with some, production companies here in town and stuff using that streaming. I think we're going to be rolling out some stuff, or we plan to. They'll be a little more innovative in the way that we deliver some of the games. There might be some other options to the way we do some of that stuff and some of the, other content that we deliver. I mean, we've already just doing this stuff as, we've been developing that and some of the, week of shows and the highlight shows and whatnot. To me, it's more important to develop that content, develop the user experiences. If we can monetize that as we go, it's easier to monetize that stuff by selling sponsors. I'll support that. Again, if I need to be on TV right now, I'm gonna have to pay for it.
Right.
That just doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of ways, because we're just so far, and I think pretty much anybody in this business is. I mean, even I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the IFL, does their championship game. Well, I'm guessing they pay for that, that airtime because they only do one game, so that, they're making revenue on it, they'd be doing more, right? If I'm wrong, that's great. Tell me, but that's just kind of the mindset, and they use this marketing. So I mean, that's fine, but having a television contract, I got a little long-winded on this because it's just kind of one of my things I always hear. If I have a TV contract, we made it or something, but that's just really not the case, and not a good use of my time chasing it down, to be honest with you.
It's almost like I experienced some extreme deja vu there, Commish.
Yeah, you guys are learning my hot buttons and how to push them and get me going. I do have a couple soapboxes I'll get on occasionally, but same thing though. I can put all that out there again, and people don't want to hear it, won't hear it, and anybody who's not listening won't care anyway. So whatever. I'm probably just talking to myself.
So, is there plans to kind of make the streams look more like one another? Is there more individuality with the stream?
That is actually something that we've been working on, and Steven Chitola has been a part of as well. and we'll be implementing that. We do want to have a standard. We will be delivering a graphics package, which is basically the scoreboard, bugs and feeds and whatnot. So at least, all of our productions have that to begin with. I do want them to know when I turn it on, it's the National Arena League. So we want to have that look. We want it to look professional. From there, though, there's only so much that we can control. A lot of it is based on the sites, the venues, the infrastructure they have already in place with production and in-house and whatnot. We do have minimum requirements that we suggest, but again, it's hard to enforce. But the most they can do to have a professional looking feed at that point, we give them kind of our guidelines for announcers. I kind of want to. That's always one of my other things. I want that professional. Some of them are, we've had some lectures with some of them, and I even sanctioned a crew last year. But we'd like to have it look, professional, sound professional, and give off that vibe.
Well, nothing new. So see, it's not the off season's been very uneventful. Nothing.
Yeah,
new
we haven't done anything. I'll tell you what, I can't. Last year, I made the mistake when we started playing, saying, I prefer the off season because I can actually get things done during the off season. Because I can't really do a lot during the season. I won't make that mistake this year. I can't wait for the season. I just want to be done with all this crap. Let's just go play football. Sit back, enjoy some of the games, and I want to deal with things like ejections and personal fouls and those violations and have those arguments. I'm in the mood for those now. I'm ready.
So opening weekend is still the same weekend as
it'll be the same weekend. The scope of the dates should not change from beginning to end, with the playoffs in the same being wrapped up before the 4th of July, end of June. That footprint will remain the same. If anything probably happens, again, just trying to work on the arena dates that are available. There might be an extra buy somewhere, that we didn't have before, just to accommodate because something didn't work necessarily with the schedule.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
With that, we're talking about championship, still highest seed would host, correct? No crazy locations or anything. We're not, doing a neutral site or anything. We're not playing on the beach somewhere, right?
No, we'll keep it. We had a pretty successful championship game as far as atmosphere last year at a home venue, so I think we'll keep going with that. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I think that's the best way to
go. You would. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I got the good question tonight, apparently.
I think that's just the easiest way to do it. I'm not thinking outside the box, having new ideas, but I just think that's we'll just go with that, I think.
Well, I know since the last time you've been on, we've got another league sponsor in Goat Sports. Them coming on, helping a lot of the organizations with, it looks like, merch, jerseys, and some other content. How did that partnership start over the last couple of months now?
Yeah, and most of those all start the same way, and that is actually something we put intense focus on. Because let's be honest, we're not doing this for fun. We need to make some money somewhere. And this is a testament to our owners. This really gets back to some of the things that are different than previously. We had our league meetings back in July, I think it was, where everybody met here in Omaha. And we spent a large amount of time, more than I've ever spent in a league meeting, discussing sponsorships, how we can make money, and sharing ideas. And, that's where some of those things come from, where people start to say, hey, I know these people, we bring them in. I know it seems simple, right? It's like, why wouldn't you do that? I don't know. It didn't always happen, Well, that's trickled down to, that happens now in our calls too. We're still reviewing that over and over. So it takes a good connection, obviously you guys know sales. Then it takes a good product. So that's what we're trying to do on our end, is provide a good product, a good platform, and then, give them some return on that. So that's just basically how that went. We've got some more. I think we may have, it's only gonna be a handful, but it might be between 5 and 8 that I would call, I don't want to call them national, but they're league-wide sponsors. In one way or another. I'm working on one that is a drink company actually out of Colorado, and just old friend that I had from previous life. If we get 5 to 8 of those, it's 5 to 8 more than we've previously had, right? And then we just keep growing that, and hopefully that helps us out there. But those deals obviously tend to be bigger than, one person by themselves trying to sell something to a team, or to the team sponsors. So sometimes it's just trying to work a little smarter, and again, our owners, that's what I've enjoyed about it, tend to work together pretty well and understand the common goal of the league and each other.
Now, Goat Sports, they're doing the footballs too, correct?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
And is it different teams have different versions of the ball, or is it just the same?
So you will have, and I've seen the prototypes, and this was actually something I kind of, back when we were in the CIF, when I was involved with that league. I don't know if you remember that league, but they had like a red, white, and blue ball, and I hated it for some reason. It just reminded me of the old ABA basketball, and I just thought it was horrible. So it was really just because I hated the color. I had found out, we could actually do different colors. So I brought up, knowing how these guys think, what if we allow the teams to use a color, and then you can market it? And I know how people collect balls too, because then I'm thinking, well, then every team's got a different ball, all that, and everyone's like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So the last year that these teams were in the CIF, they started doing that. That's when we saw that. Well, now we got some better ball distributors with some more options and flexibility with their colors, and the flexibility being that they can do it in smaller batches. So, like, I know for sure a couple teams, including like Omaha, I think they have probably 5 or 6 different ball sets that they're using this year. They're incorporating in with their sponsors and whatnot. I know a bunch of them, kind of got on the idea that they're doing a military night or whatever. So they'll have a camouflage, panel ball, one night. So teams may have multiple looks of the footballs that they're using, but they all look pretty cool. And it's actually a better quality football than we were using a year ago, a little higher PSI. We did take that into effect. We're trying to help the kicking. We do not have the nets this year, but, we do want to see, a longer kick game again. We seem to be lacking that a little bit last year than the previous year. So I think they'll all go together. I think that'll work out pretty well for the league.
Well, speaking about kicking and rule set, any new rules that were implemented this season? Or are we sticking with the same rules, just minus the nets?
Minus the nets is pretty much the obvious change. So we will basically go back to the we'll keep the deuce. So that makes it a little more interesting, because the risk reward now that you can't miss left or right, it'll go out of bounds. So that changes that dynamic a little bit. There should not be any major changes. The rule book is being examined right now. We do have a competition committee, which has coaches on it. I think Coach Negron's on there, and I'm sure
Coach Rez.
Yeah, I'm sure Rez is on. I was trying to look to see if I had that over here. Even if Rez wasn't on it, he's gonna end up in the meeting, I'm sure. But but no, we got a good group of guys that are going to have to abide by those rules. I mean, one thing we've done in the past is sometimes change rules without talking to coaches and officials, which is really brilliant, right? But no, I got my director of fishing, talking to coaches and whatever, and whatever rules we do change or alter, I think will be a positive. And we didn't have a lot that I didn't care for last year. I think we had fixed a lot of that. And one of the things that I kind of stress to our officials and the people doing the rule books is, I don't want to, I'm not trying to copy the IFL, right? But if we have, some weird rule, maybe it's just a boundary rule or just, a minor rule that's not going to mean a lot of difference, and we officiate in 2 different ways between those 2 leagues, we got officials that officiate both leagues. I don't want officials going, my NAL field or IFL field tonight, and then miss a call, just because they just, it's a minute difference. So anything like that is what I've kind of tasked our guys. If we go through and clean that up and make things the same for some of that, and then players too, right, where they go between the leagues, right. I think it just makes more sense for everybody, unless there's a real reason we have a different interpretation of that rule.
Well, this year, unlike last year, there's going to be more games played throughout the week.
Yeah.
And the crews, I mean, you got to, football is a unique sport where IFL, NAL, arena, whatever version, you got to find the crews who know the actual game.
Yep.
How big are you thinking that the referee crew is going to be expanded this year compared to last year, crew wise?
Well, the crews are still 5. We, I got a couple markets that have a pretty good, consistent set where they have 5 or 6 guys or, 1 or 2 subs. I got a couple that are a little bit more towards the 10 to 12 and they kind of rotate them in or out. But you nailed the big problem or the big challenge is this is a different game than outdoor. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's apples to oranges, in officiating it. So it's completely different. And, and I'll be as competitive as I can with other leagues, right? But it's just really dumb for me to make it harder on an official. I mean, officials not making, money for their whole career in either of our leagues, right? They're working, outdoor games. We're using them to help them gain skills so they're better at their outdoor game too, right? We want them to be better officials for whatever level they want to be at. So, if a guy could go do games in the IFL and the NAL, that's more reps. He's going to get better. He's going to get more used to the speed. He's going to get more into the indoor game. I think overall it's going to be a better situation for the officials. So, I want to do everything I can to give them, as many reps as they can, whether it's in our league or the IFL. I'm not going to get offended if a guy's over there. Now, I'd rather they take our game first if we have one on the same night. That I'll get into that, but I'm not going to tell them not to do IFL games. I don't pay them enough, nor do they pay them enough to tell them to be exclusive to one of our leagues, in my opinion.
So we kind of were discussing, Jim and I, last night, talking about transactions and things. I'd like to get your opinion on this. Do you think there's more balance and more the word I'm looking for, like more better quarterbacks and players on this year's teams than there were last year, like more big names into the league this year?
That's one of those questions I think I'll let you guys debate. And no, I'm not trying to get cop out. I believe it or not, I think we kind of talked about this at one point. I get the transaction list with the coaches and my position, in the league office, I'm like, I want to make sure the transaction portal works. I want to make sure they get posted. For the most part, I don't even look at who the players are, to be honest with you. I really don't, so I can't really even tell you who's on a lot of the teams right now. I don't need to know that,
right?
I'm more in the mechanics of making sure that, it's getting taken care of. The contracts are filed properly, that everybody's getting notified that, players aren't getting signed by more than one team or more than one league and that kind of stuff. I just haven't really got down to that. Now, again, when we actually start playing some games, I'll start paying attention to it a little bit more. But right now it's kind of like, I got to make sure that, I got to get a schedule before I start worrying about who's on the rosters right now. So I think that's great for these shows and the fans to have that discussion. And I'm happy that somebody's interested in December or even having that discussion, to be honest. So that's a good thing.
A lot of people, well, I know, and Jeff knows, because we deal with coaches that know the process, but a lot of fans I see on social media, they look at the transactions on the nationalarenaleague.com/transactions, and they see a player signed, and it says player suspended indefinitely, and then it says other league. Can you just tell people why we do as a league here, or why other leagues do the same thing?
And it's not exclusive to our league. Now the rules might be slightly different on how they enforce it. But there's basically, think about it, you can't be under contract to 2 leagues simultaneously. Right. You can't satisfy a contract to both leagues. So you're violating it just by doing that. Now, our coaches and our owners are educated on that being the case. And then the contracts we have it listed in there that this is the case as well. And that is the infraction, if that occurs. So I'd love to say it should not be a surprise to anybody, but we know how people read things, and whatnot. But that's what that's all about. And really, if you think about it, if a coach goes and finds a guy, especially if he's a guy that nobody knows about, right? He finds the resources, does all that. it just prevents that. Then, other league would go, and not saying that the IFL or anybody would do that, but goes and just looks at your transactions. Oh, I'm going to go sign their guy then, right? Our coaches, though, and owners, and, I will tell you this, I'll give you a little behind the scenes on it, for the most part, are into the best interests of the player. So if it really is that there's a better situation in a different league, they just communicate with their players and know that. And, most of the time, if that's the case, it is a legitimately better situation. They'll release that player so they don't trigger that clause, right? So they'll release them as a free agent so they can go sign in another situation that's better for them. What you usually see when there's suspension is where guy doesn't even talk to the coach, just goes, does it, has no respect for the teams, the leagues, and whatnot. That's where you're seeing those suspensions usually.
And I see there's other listings you put like other league exempt, and you have USFL, Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I mean, and our coaches obviously and myself, we're football guys. I mean, we've been through this. Mm-hmm. We know the guy's not going to make his living at this level. Hopefully, if they could go up and there's better opportunities for them football wise, those leagues are exempt, and we have an exemption process, which still protects the player. Then, UFL is one of them, right? Mm-hmm. If they do get signed to a contract there, we put them on exempt list, and then if they are no longer in the UFL, CFL, NFL, any of those, right? They would then, be exempt, and then when they come back, they go right back on, but they wouldn't take a roster spot. So the way it's set up, I mean, it's not holding back a player. It just is. It is, I guess, punishing a player if they just go and have no respect for their leagues or their teams or whatnot. So, but the coaches all know that, and the players, like we said, it's in there. Hopefully, it's communicated with them. It shouldn't be a surprise if that occurs.
So we talk about, the players and how great they are. Is there any talks maybe in the future of like a Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor or anything like that within the league?
There has not been, and it's kind of funny when I think about it right now. If we had a Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor, I'm not sure even what that would look like with the iterations of the league, over the time and the moving parts of it and the moving teams of it. And I think Carolina would probably just get a plaque because they've been in it the whole time. And I think they're about it. And that's where we start. After that, I mean, there's definitely a lot of history with this league. And there's probably a Hall of Fame and a Hall of Shame associated with it. But
sounds like an episode.
We got to be a little more consistent with a few more teams for a little longer period of time, and then maybe we could kind of get to that. I just don't even know what those qualifications would be like. I mean, you got teams like Omaha and Sioux City that have been in other leagues forever, but been in the NAL for one season now. Right? And I just don't even know how you'd measure some of that. So. But I'm always open to ideas and discussion, though. If you guys have something that makes a little bit of sense there, I'd be happy to talk about that.
So Jeff's basically said, "Oh, we can do a Hall of Fame and a blooper reel."
I was gonna say that sounds like a project for you and I.
That might be easier. It's kind of like if you get 2 seasons, you're in the Hall. 2 seasons, that's small goals, right? We'll achieve those. Participation awards.
Maybe Inside the Walls podcast may have to do a Hall of Fame for the NAL.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. The other thing I don't like is when other people volunteer me for work. So if you guys want to do it, go for it. It's all yours.
How dare you, Jeff?
I guess we're the committee, Jim. There we go.
I just know it would be a project. That's for sure.
Oh, so you're telling me and Jeff that we're going to be selecting the playoffs this year? The 4-team
playoffs. Let me know how it goes.
So we can leave out an undefeated team? Okay.
Yep,
sure. Why not? We'll have a couple playing games and that'll be
have
fun.
Bowl games everywhere. Have sponsors. Yeah. Okay, that's being very hypothetical.
Yeah. Sounds like a great plan.
Hey, it does well in college where all the stars opt out if you're not in the playoff. But yeah,
a lot of things do a lot better with a lot of money. It makes it a lot easier to do things sometimes. So,
Look at the NFL. What was it? I saw a stat yesterday that how much money NFL brought in just on Monday Night Football to this point in the year. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
only
it's
if
crazy. I mean,
it's ridiculous how much money
you know,
they make.
I talk about, when I got started in this business, my first job was Kansas City Chiefs, but my second job was with Seattle Seahawks. And, we did the video on the coaching staff, and literally, I've had jobs, football business, whatever. And one thing you usually have is a budget, right? And we were owned by Paul Allen, who co-founded Microsoft, or so I never heard of him, but whatever, with Bill Gates or something, right? So apparently he had a little cash, and we didn't have a budget. It's the only job I ever had. They're just like, just tell us what you need. There's no budget.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will never be in that position again, where it's just like, yeah, just get what you need. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. I mean, that's sick money right there. But obviously, again, it's not the situation in the NAL. So it's the polar opposite. So those were great days, though. It made things a lot easier sometimes to get things done.
That's when they give you a check and they just put a number on it. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
We spend so much
Okay.
money, and not to get into the weeds, but and talk about how old I am, but I was in the league when they started doing actual video off computers instead of the tapes, so this was a big deal, late 90s. And the company that did it first for the big NFL teams of the colleges is a company called Avid Sports. Well, their thing was they were built on Mac, it was a Macintosh based product. Well, so when it's time for the Seattle Seahawks to want to do it, let's just say that the co-founder of Microsoft didn't want to spend $2 million on Mac products. So he basically gave us the direction, go find something that works on a PC. And so we basically had a company, they're building it, open checkbook, spent $4 million. We had the largest video system in the NFL at the time, the first all digital. I mean, it was incredible. I'll admit it was pretty cool.
Well, now 4 million in the NFL.
Oh, not 4 million. And if you really want to geek out, we had like 4 terabytes of storage for that 4 million. I mean, I got a terabyte on a thumb drive now. I had this whole server room of drives and everything. It's like 128 SCSI drives. It's ridiculous, but
it's like the first computer ever built was what? The first computer ever built was what, like 1,200 square foot?
Oh, yeah, it's like 36 kilobits or something. There's more memory in this calculator now or something.
It only produced like a number now.
Yeah.
Secret date.
It's amazing how technology's advanced.
Yeah, it's gone a little bit. Yeah.
Commish, anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up tonight's show to inform the fans of the National Arena League?
No, appreciate all the fans sticking with us. We know we want to get the schedule out there too. Trust me, I got a lot of coaches and owners that want to get the schedule completed, but we also want to do it correctly so we can plan accordingly. It will be coming shortly. A couple bumps in the road, but overall, I think that we're trending in the right direction compared. If you're an NFL fan a year or two ago, I think we're in a better place than we were then. Got a lot of good teams. I can't wait to get to actual football. I think we're going to have a very competitive season. I just don't see a team I don't see the team that's been going undefeated for the last 2 years doing that again. That's going to be a tough road for them this year. If they do, they're going to earn it. I will tell you that. So I'm excited to see all that play out. And I think we're only about 10 weeks away from getting there.
Are we really 10 weeks away? Is it that quick?
I think the first preseason game is the 8th of March. So
we're 69 days until camp. We were 70 yesterday, 69 today.
The blink of an eye will be. It'll be the start of the season. Wow.
Yeah.
And who said the off season wasn't fun?
Well, I mean, people do enjoy train wrecks. I mean, I get it. But there's a lot that goes into it, and there's 3 billion people on Facebook. So I don't really care what about 20 of them have to say. I'll leave it at that. They're outnumbered.
And we know who most of them are.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Jeff, any final words, my friend?
No, just excited. Like we mentioned, 69 days till camp. Season's getting underway. It'll be around the corner. It'll be here before we know it.
Commissioner, I know Hopefully you're not on before Christmas and New Year's.
I'm not planning on it. I got some stuff coming down here for the end of the year, so I'm going to be actually pretty occupied. So I'll catch you guys in New Year. Have a good holiday. And, we'll catch you, probably January.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been episode 167 of Inside the Walls podcast. We will be back next week for another episode, Christmas special edition of Inside the Walls. We'll be doing some throwbacks of some funny moments between the cast, the crew, probably some top plays of the previous season, and we send it off and see what type of gifts we want from the 2025 season. That's the commissioner. That's Jeff. I am Jim. This has been an awesome episode. Hopefully everyone's out there. Be well, be safe. We'll see you guys.